So hello there and welcome to a quick video about Sunday evening's race on the rFactor 2 competition system. It was one of the special event races, a 35-minute event at Monza in the Formula Pro, and it was a really fun event. Just start by showing a screen here with the grid. Particularly nice as 7 out of the 10 drivers were silver ranked drivers. They're the practice times there. It was my second duel with Antonio Mur. He took pole the previous day in the same race and I was P2. This time I managed to just pip him, but my time wasn't as good as his yesterday. He did a 22 flat, which is no way I could get there. So very pleased to have taken pole. So no warm-up lap in this event. You spawn on the grid and straight away it is rock and roll. Got to get the revs right. Very easy to wheel spin this car and end up in the barrier. Very easy to bog as well. Been practicing the starts, and this time I managed to just nail a good enough start to hold Antonio Mur off, or at least stop him pulling level. Racing down to the first variante at Monza, which is very tricky in a multi-class event, and fortunately everybody was super careful. I was scrappy in there, but at least I owned both apexes, and I exit the first variante with a slight lead and feeling very, very relieved. So we'll show a little bit of this opening lap action and just mention the car for a second. This is the Formula Pro, so it's inspired by a Formula 1 car and very similar performance to a Formula 1 car, but a little bit old world in the fact that it doesn't have any hybrid electrical regeneration systems and doesn't have any of the weight or extra size involved in those systems. So it's internal combustion engine only, and the only modern technical device on it is DRS. Usual rules apply. You've got to be within 1 second to get DRS activation. And so my job in this opening laps is to, if at all possible, try to pull a 1 second gap on the chasing cars. Made a couple of tiny setup changes. I will put a customer version of my setup, and by that I mean a couple of my tiny secret little tweaks to minor little tweaks I do. The tire pressure and diff won't be in there, but everything else will be in there. So virtually this exact setup I'll put in the comments below, so anybody who's curious about this car can have a go. So we finished the first lap and things are looking so far so good. One note though, Antonio Mur is a little bit quicker than me through the first variante. I'm a little bit cautious through there because I've had a lot of issues there in the past, but I think I'm holding my own, or had perhaps had a slight advantage through the second variante, and I think I'm a little bit stronger through Ascari, which is a good situation to be in because it just means you are less vulnerable to attack in the DRS zone on the main straight. So here we head for the first Lesmo, second Lesmo, potential to really torture your front tyres here through the Lesmos. And the second Lesmo, it's easy to run wide and also easy to stomp on the throttle too early. This is another DRS zone in the event. No DRS in practice, no DRS whatsoever in qualifying, but DRS will become available after second lap of the race. So far so good. I'm nudging towards a 1 second gap now on the second place car of Antonio Mur. So it's been a tense but pretty successful opening lap, and hoping to get my first win here in Formula Pro in Monza. Now we've jumped ahead 3 laps now. We're on lap 5 and things are looking good. I'm eking out a gap touch by touch. But disaster. I've just come in a little hot, and I checked my apex speed compared to the previous laps, and I was 10 kilometers faster at that first apex of the Premier Variante, and that was just enough to prevent me balancing the car on throttle as I headed for the second apex and half spun off into the kitty litter. All was not lost though. I still had 4 wheels on my wagon, avoided the barrier, no damage, but very annoyed with myself and a little bit embarrassed, and off in pursuit. So this is the same lap. I'm not far behind the 3rd place, but I'm currently in 4th place and really got the bit between my teeth now, determined to get into a rhythm and really attack these drivers in the car ahead and hope to at least get closer to Antonio Mur, who is now leading the race. I get a good exit from the second Lesmo. I think I've got DRS at this point here, and really putting a lot of pressure on this guy who suddenly finds himself in third. And as we enter the Ascari, I've got a reasonable exit from Ascari. He's on a bad line there, gets a little bit sideways. I just jink to the left and manage to deal with him, much to my relief, pretty smartly on the same lap where I made the mistake. So he's backed off there as we enter the Parabolica. I'll show an external view of that. So exiting Ascari, his car gets a touch of oversteer, and while corrects that, he loses some pace, and I'm through safely into the Parabolica. He pulls in behind me, and I'm off now to pursue the next vehicle. I should have mentioned this is a 35-minute event, so it ends up being 25 race laps. We are now in lap 6, and I'm going to need all those laps. Now the next driver ahead, who I think his name is Barduca, it's not going to be quite as simple and easy for Mr. Barduca because he's got pace, and it takes me a lot more laps. Now here we're lap 7. I can see a bit of pressure there with all the smoke coming off his rear tyres, which means I'm pressurising him enough that he's got to work really hard into the first Variante. Through the Lesmos here, I'm right on his gearbox now, certainly well within probably 0.3, 0.4, so well within DRS range. And the DRS is just going to magnify the pressure even further as I pursue the gentleman in second place and try to put a whole heap of pressure on him. Now we're going to jump ahead in a moment 2 or 3 laps because this gentleman has pretty solid pace, and it's not until the end of lap 9, beginning of lap 10, that I'm actually able to exert further significant pressure on this car. Now I've had DRS down the pit straight there. I'm very close, which is obviously putting the lead car under increasing pressure, and it is so easy to just not get it right at the Premier Variante. All the aero comes off the car, and you've just got a car there with simply mechanical grip. But now with the next time around, this is now coming into lap 10, I think. Yeah, start of lap 10. I've had DRS from a closer gap this time. I get the rubbered line. He's wide enough to not try to win the braking duel from the non-rubbered line, and that puts him on a suboptimal line through the Premier Variante, and his slightly weaker exit there is enough to allow me through. And I'm now in second place. Got to consolidate that. I stick to the inside for the second Variante to prevent him throwing one up the inside, and that consolidates the pass, and we're in lap 11, I believe now, and finally I'm through to second place. But that was to be as good as it got on the day, because I was able to match Antonio Mur's pace. That's the little glimpses I was getting each time he left the Premier Variante, and that's as close as I got. We ended up just under a 10-second gap at the end of the race. It's the full set of race results there, which pops up from the competition system. You can see there the system had an expectation in brackets there of me coming third, so the fact I qualified first and came second actually boosted my points, but you can see the full results there. I did hold the fastest lap of race until quite near the end, when my nemesis Mr. Mur managed to pop one in 1.5 tenths faster than mine. So come and see us in the rFactor 2 competition system. It's fantastic fun, great racing. The more the merrier. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Come and join in.